Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. You can follow me there. And today we will go over all the relevant action from Week 14. And of course, stick around until later in the show because 2025 is coming to a close. 2026 is almost here, and I'm already starting to look ahead to this offseason for the 49ers. And I found a few players that I think the Niners should absolutely trade for this spring. But of course, before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below. The support has been fantastic recently. You guys have been killing it. Thank you for liking the videos. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Keep it up. It's been phenomenal. So of course, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into the video. First up, just want to go over a few quick relevant matchups in Week 14. Niners did not get a whole lot of help in Week 14 during the bye. Of course, the Packers did beat the Chicago Bears, beat them late, 28 to, I believe, 24. Bears unfortunately lost on a fourth quarter, fourth down interception from Caleb Williams. Really kind of a laughable play. And the Bears, this is notable, right? The Bears, you can say whatever you want about their schedule, but they were a red-hot team coming into this matchup. They had won 9 of their last 10 games before losing to the Packers. But now they fall all the way down to the number 7 seed, and they are fighting for their playoff lives from here on out. That 49ers-Bears game in Week 17, it's going to be an absolutely crucial matchup. It's going to be on prime time, Sunday Night Football in Levi's. Packers take the division lead this week. Not totally sold on them as a Super Bowl contender, but this year has been weird. It's been wide open, so if anybody can do it, I guess it could be the Packers, right? So definitely two teams to watch out for. Packers get the better of the Bears on Sunday. Now we shift focus to the NFC West, where the Seahawks destroyed the Atlanta Falcons. This was an absolute lose-lose situation for the 49ers because not only did the Seahawks win and maintain their one-game lead ahead of the 49ers in the division and in the playoff race, but they also gave another loss to the Atlanta Falcons and made that draft pick that much better for the Rams. So way to go, Seattle. You really ruined it for everybody. This was a weird game. They were tied 6-6 at halftime. Atlanta's defense, they were balling out. They really looked like they were dominating Sam Darnold and the offense. Final score of this game, 37-9, Seattle. 6-6 at halftime, 37-9 final score. Absolutely ridiculous. Total implosion from Atlanta. Another crazy win against a bad football team from Seattle. That's 2 in a row now. And I got to say, the defense and the special teams of this Seahawks team, they really keep them in games when the offense is struggling. It is so hard to beat this team because even if you are able to contain Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba, the defense and the special teams will punish you and they will make you pay and they will force you into mistakes. And those mistakes are what allow the offense to get back into a groove and allow the Seahawks to win a whole bunch of games. So they're certainly a scary opponent. They're a team you really got to be careful of. Not super looking forward to the 49ers playing them in Week 18, but we're going to have to do it regardless. They'll be wearing the rivalry jerseys. So, that's coming. Just be ready. And now in the other NFC West matchup this week, the Rams destroyed the Arizona Cardinals. Similar to the Falcons-Seahawks game, the Cardinals had an early lead in this one. It was like 7-3, and they just absolutely fell apart. Arizona, man, they are so bad. They're just a bad football team. Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, Monty Austinfort, the GM, Kyler Murray, the quarterback. Somebody has to go. Maybe everybody has to go. But this is inexcusable. It's just inexcusable. I know they had a ton of injuries, but they're not good. They're just not good at all. And I think someone needs to be let go before that team can actually do anything serious. The Rams, on the flip side of the coin, they're the best team in the NFL still. They're going to end up as the 1 seed in the NFC most likely. Probably going to get the bye week. And honestly, it really does feel like either the Niners or the Seahawks are going to travel to SoFi Stadium at some point to face the Rams in the playoffs. I would guess that would be during the divisional round. Rams would get the bye 49ers or Seahawks win in the wild card round and then they go face the Rams. That just feels like inevitable to me. And even if it's not for the division, that Week 18 49ers Seahawks game, it's going to be massive for seeding. Because if you think about it, the lowest seed plays the highest seed in the playoffs. That's always been the case. So, if the 49ers and the Seahawks are both wild card teams, let's say 49ers are 6 and Seahawks are 5, because that's where we're at right now. If both of those teams win wild card weekend, then the lowest seed remaining has to go play the Los Angeles Rams. That would presumably be the 6th seed, right? That would be the 49ers go to play the Rams, whereas the 5 seed would get to play like the Eagles or the Packers instead. I would much rather play the Eagles or the Packers than the Rams. I don't know about you guys. I would certainly rather go play Eagles or Packers instead. So getting that 5 seed, to me, that is the most realistic goal for the remainder of the season for the 49ers. And one way that you can absolutely secure the 5 seed, beat Seattle in Week 18. That's going to be a massive, massive, massive game. So circle it on your calendars if you haven't already. And of course, we got to watch out for that Seahawks-Rams game coming up. I believe that's Week 16. Got a bunch of big games late in the season. Some less big games now. The Saints beat the Buccaneers. This was the first game that went in the 49ers' favor, NFC-wise. Buccaneers fall, I believe, to 7-6 now. Pretty fun game from Tyler Shuck and Devin Neal, some rookies showing out for the New Orleans Saints. They're showing a little bit of promise, a little bit of momentum for next year. It's a nice win for them. And the Bucs, on the other hand, they are in danger of losing the NFC South. And Mike Evans, his 1,000-yard receiving yards record. Of course, if you don't know, he's had 1,000 receiving yards every single year of his career. I believe it's the longest streak in history. And that streak is in jeopardy this year. I think it's probably cooked. Bucs really struggling, kind of limping to the end of this season. Do we see Bryce Young in the playoffs? That could be a real possibility. Both the Panthers and the Buccaneers are sitting at 7-6 right now. And those two teams play each other twice in the last 4 weeks of the season. So certainly feels like those games are going to decide the NFC South champion at this point. Then a little bonus game. No NFC teams in this one, but the Texans beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Chiefs are having their worst year in the Patrick Mahomes era, and it was capped off by arguably the worst game of Patrick Mahomes' professional career. They have just given away games so far this year, and Sunday Night Football was no different. Mahomes threw 3 interceptions against this really good Texans defense, and it was ugly. It was not a good look. Chiefs in real danger of missing the playoffs. I'm not going to count them out yet because there's still Patrick Mahomes over there. But, it's getting really dicey. And there's been kind of a slow decline in talent with the Chiefs over the last couple of years. I mean, we saw them get demolished in the Super Bowl just last season. That felt like a big morale hit. Now they're really coming out and struggling this year. 49ers looking to avoid a similar fate. That was one of the big reasons why I was in favor of getting younger and getting cheaper this past offseason. Kind of infuse some youth and some young talent and some, a new energy into the team. Avoid looking like the Chiefs this year or the Ravens even. Yeah, just a really bad year so far for the Chiefs. Would the 49ers beat the Chiefs if they played today? I don't quite know. Let me know in the comments down below what you'd think. And for our next segment now, we're going to go into a little bit of mock draft season. I believe this is the first official mock draft content I've done on the channel so far this year. We've got a little early mock draft roundup. I've looked at a bunch of different mock drafts over the course of this past week, and I wanted to highlight 3 of them and talk about who the experts have the 49ers selecting. Let's start with Ryan Wilson from CBS. He's got the 49ers in the first round, taking Denzel Boston, wide receiver from Washington. Boston is a big physical, these are Ryan Wilson's words, quote, a big physical wide receiver with a massive catch radius, contested catchability, and the speed to separate quickly and hit top-end velocity in 2 to 3 steps. Boston is an effective route runner at all 3 levels, will run through arm tackles in space, and can out-muscle defenders in the red zone. While primarily an outside threat, his size, strength, and hands make him a potential matchup problem in the slot too. Added bonus, he's a legit threat as a punt returner, end quote. Those are Ryan Wilson's words on Denzel Boston. Very complimentary, right? My take, I don't know if I'm as high on Boston as Ryan Wilson is. I do think the lack of long speed does kind of affect his game a little bit. But, he still does have plenty of redeeming qualities to his game. And he'd be a very interesting fit as a Juwan Jennings replacement in this offense. Now, the punt returner thing, Ricky Pearsall, also a very adept punt returner. I don't think if the 49ers took Denzel Boston in round 1, I don't think he'd be getting any punt return snaps. That's just not something you have a first-round pick doing in today's NFL. But, explosive player. He's got some really good traits. So looking forward to getting further into the Denzel Boston tape for the rest of this year. Now, on to one of my favorites, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, one of the premier draft experts. I love his draft breakdowns, his prospect previews, his mock drafts, all that stuff. He's very well informed. He's a very smart guy. I always look to Dane Brugler, as should you all, during draft season. And he dropped a mock draft last week, and he had the 49ers taking Makai Lemon, wide receiver from USC. And here's what Brugler had to say about Lemon. Quote, if Lemon is still on the board when the 49ers go on the clock, I don't think Kyle Shanahan would be able to pass on him. What Lemon, 5'11", 195 pounds, lacks in size, he makes up for with his manipulative route running and competitive finishing skills at the catch point. Get ready for the Amon-Ra St. Brown comparisons. And I agree with Dane Brugler. It's no surprise, I've talked about it on this channel. Makai Lemon's probably my favorite wide receiver in this entire class, and he might be my favorite player in the entire class. I love Makai Lemon. I think this dude is a future superstar. And I think the Amon-Ra St. Brown comparisons are not just because both of those guys played at USC. I think it's a real, valuable, viable, I should say, prospect comparison. I think it's a really good pro comp for Makai Lemon, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think the 49ers could use an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of player on their roster right now. So sign me up for Makai Lemon. Now, one more from USA Today, Ayrton Ostley. His mock draft, he's got the 49ers taking Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. And this one is spicy. This is what Ostley has to say about Kenyon Sadiq. Quote, San Francisco opts to take the top pass catcher on the board near the end of the first round with Sadiq. The Oregon tight end is by far the top prospect at the position in the draft, with the speed to be a vertical threat, but the frame to take on blocking assignments. Now, what Ostley said about being the top pass catcher on the board, I think that's a really interesting point. Taking a tight end round 1 when you've already got George Kittle under contract might seem like a luxury pick, right? But there's a very real chance that Kenyon Sadiq is the best player on the board when the 49ers pick. If all those top shelf wide receivers like Denzel Boston or Makai Lemon or Cornell Tate or Jordan Tyson, if all those guys are off the board before the 49ers can pick, and you think that Sadiq can be your George Kittle replacement, why not take him in the first round? I mean, we're seeing a shift right now to 12 and 13 personnel all across the league. And if you've got Kenyon Sadiq and George Kittle, there's nobody in the NFL who can run 12 personnel better than the 49ers if they were to add Sadiq. Sadiq's a great player, better receiver than blocker at this point in his career. But like Ostley said, he does have that frame, and I do expect him to, make that a part of his game in the NFL. He's not one of these pseudo wide receiver tight ends like a Dalton Kincaid or something like that, right? So, those are 3 mock drafts that I was taking a look at. CBS Sports has us going Denzel Boston. The Athletic has us taking Makai Lemon. And USA Today has the 49ers grabbing Kenyon Sadiq. Out of those 3, which is your favorite? Leave a comment down below. And of course, let me know if you think that there's a better option for the 49ers in the first round. Notably, none of these guys had us taking offensive line, and none of them had us taking defensive line. Do you think they should attack the trenches in round 1, or should they go after a pass catcher? Leave your thoughts down below in the comments, of course. Now, speaking of pass catchers, there's more than one way to add a pass catcher, right? You can draft a guy, you can sign a guy in free agency, or you can trade for a player. And I've got 3 wide receiver trade targets that I want the 49ers to take a look at this offseason. Now, none of these guys have been in trade rumors, but I do think their old teams trading these guys away could make some sense. Why? Well, it's because all three of these guys that I've identified are from the 2023 draft class. That means that two of them only have 1 year left on their contract after this current season. So if they're not going to get extended, might be time for a trade. Give them a new change of scenery and see if the other team will, the 49ers maybe, will give them a better contract. And of course, the third guy I mentioned was a first-round pick in that draft. So he's got next year and then the 5th-year option if it's picked up. But that's kind of the rationale, right? All of these guys are expecting contracts in the near future. So if they're not going to get those contracts from the team that drafted them, might be time to move on to the 49ers. And I want to start now with a really underrated guy, one of the most underrated receivers in the league, in my opinion. It's Xavier Hutchinson from the Houston Texans. Hutchinson, he's a big-bodied, underrated possession receiver. He's having a career year in Houston right now, despite being part of a very full wide receiver room. Texans, of course, have Nico Collins. They've got the second-round rookie Jaden Higgins. Both of those guys are sort of similar archetypes to Hutchinson. They're the big possession outside receivers. And then, on the depth chart, the Texans also have Jalen Noel, Braxton Berrios, like guys who could play on the inside. So Xavier Hutchinson could potentially be expendable, right? He could be a candidate to move. Plus, he was Brock Purdy's number one target at Iowa State, interestingly enough. That trio at Iowa State was Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, and Xavier Hutchinson. Very fun trio right there. I think you'd have to assume that Purdy and Hutchinson have some chemistry. Teammates for quite some time at Iowa State. Hutchinson is a sure-handed possession receiver, one of the more underrated wide receivers in the league, in my opinion. Seems like anytime he's on the field for the Texans, he's making plays. This could be a really fun addition. Plus, of course, you've got the familiarity with DeMeco Ryans. So if the 49ers are able to swing a trade for Xavier Hutchinson, I'd be totally on board, especially if the Niners do end up losing Juwan Jennings. Now, the next guy I want to talk about, he's not the Juwan Jennings replacement. This is a very different archetype of player. I'm going to talk about Demario Douglas from the New England Patriots. Now, if you have not heard of Demario Douglas, he is an explosive, yards after catch type of receiver. He's shifty, he's athletic, he's wiggly, he's quick, he's a really talented guy, and I don't think he's broken out just yet. He's only 5'8", 192 pounds, so he's short, but he's pretty stocky for that size, and he's certainly got the quickness to match. He's got quickness and long speed, which I think is super relevant to if you're going to be a small receiver in the NFL, you better be athletic. And Demario Douglas absolutely is. He's kind of having a down year right now, only 27 catches so far this year, and like Hutchinson, he's also in a very crowded wide receiver room. We saw Kendrick Bourne get cut from this team earlier on this season, and there's still not a lot of room for the wide receivers in New England. Demario Douglas is playing fewer snaps than guys like Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte. He's being outproduced by Mac Hollins. And the Patriots just spent a third-round pick on former draft crush of mine, Kyle Williams, out of Wazoo. And Williams fills a really similar sort of role to Demario Douglas. Both smaller guys, both real quick, real shifty. So I could totally see the Patriots wanting to prioritize their draft pick, Kyle Williams, and moving Demario Douglas to a team like the 49ers. Niners could certainly use that explosive playmaker. We've talked about that on the show. 49ers need speed, and they need explosions, and they need guys who can hit a home run, basically. They need guys who can score a touchdown anytime they touch the football, and Demario Douglas is that type of athlete. I could totally see the 49ers adding an explosive playmaker like Douglas from the Patriots, who they've already struck a deal with this season. The 49ers and Patriots, of course, struck a deal to bring Keion White to San Francisco. So I could totally see Demario Douglas following his former teammate here to the Bay. And now the last guy I want to talk about, this is the first-round pick. It's going to be Quentin Johnston from the LA Chargers. Johnson is a really interesting case. He broke out to start the season. He was balling out. He had been a total bust in the first couple of years of his career, but then in September, he went off. He was dominating for the Chargers. But then as the season went along, there was less and less involvement for QJ, maybe sort of a flash in the pan earlier on in the season. He ends up losing snaps to like an old version of Keenan Allen. You've got Ladd McConkey, and then second round rookie Trey Harris is starting to eat into QJ snaps. And plus, the Chargers have preseason standout Keandre Lambert-Smith too on that depth chart as well. So QJ in theory could be expendable for the right price. It's not like they're exactly hurting at wide receiver at this point. So if the 49ers give a competitive offer, I could totally see the Chargers trading QJ, especially because I have to imagine they'd prefer to pay Ladd McConkey over Quentin Johnston, right? I don't think you want to give Quentin Johnston a big deal if you're the LA Chargers. So why not get some draft capital for him? And if you're the 49ers, QJ, he brings a dimension that the Niners just don't have on the roster right now. A real deep threat. QJ has the size, he has the speed, he has the frame. He is a legit deep threat. Now the issue is the hands, right? They are inconsistent. His drops have been a real problem for 2 years, and they were starting to make a little bit of a comeback as this season's gone along, right? So that is something to be worried about for sure. But coming out of TCU, QJ was a yak demon. This guy loved the run after catch. Get this guy in open space, and he could use that speed and that big frame of his to shrug off tacklers and really make some explosive plays as well. If you want to talk about a home run hitter, Quentin Johnston is a home run hitter. And I think that he could really take advantage of the space that is opened up in a Kyle Shanahan offense. So this feels like a pretty good fit in all honesty. I know the drops are a little bit worrying, but QJ is arguably the most talented player of the three that I've mentioned. So I could certainly see the 49ers being interested. So Xavier Hutchinson, Demario Douglas, and Quentin Johnston. Which one of those guys is your favorite option for the 49ers to bring in this offseason? For me, I like all these options. I think Demario Douglas would be a really fun fit, though. That gets me fired up. Of course, let me know in the comments who you think the 49ers should trade for, wide receiver or otherwise. If you've got any fun trade ideas you want me to talk about, leave them below in the comments, and I'd be happy to discuss them on the show here in our final segment of the episode, the comments section. Of course, love this segment where I go over a couple of your comments and I tell you my thoughts. Thanks to everybody who's been commenting. I read every single comment, even the ones that are not featured in the episode. But an extra special thanks to those who are featured for your comments. And of course, if you'd like to be featured in this segment, all you have to do is comment. It's completely free. You can comment on me. You can comment on my kind of messy hair right now. You can comment on the 49ers, on the channel, whatever you like. Just go ahead and comment. And the more you comment, the more likely you are to be featured. It's kind of like a lottery ticket in that way, right? But let's get into the comment section right now. First comment from Legendary. Legendary says, I was definitely rooting against the Cowboys, even though that doesn't really matter. And you know what? So was I. I always find a way to root against the Cowboys, man. I can't bring myself to like them. They're just such a hated rival. The Rams, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. Those are the big three for me. I'm a little too young to really be super invested in the Raiders rivalry. I'll talk trash to Raiders fans, absolutely. I'll let them know who's boss, who runs the Bay, but I'm just a little too young. I missed some of those elite matchups back in the day. But the Cowboys and the Rams and the Seahawks, I have a lot of vitriol for. I can't stand those teams. I will never like those teams. Never, ever, ever. Let me know down below in the comments, who's the Niners rival that gets under your skin the most? Sneaky, anyone? Eagles? Eagles, anybody? Man, for a period there, 2022, 2023, that Niners-Eagles rivalry was heated. There was a lot of tension between those two teams those 2 years. Next comment now from B19. If Alfred Collins can be a good pass rusher, this team will be dominant. And I totally agree. Collins is getting a ton of hype and praise from the 49ers organization recently for his effort and his mentality and just the type of plays he's been putting out on the field. And it's really notable. There's been 4 or 5 quotes this week about how amazing Alfred Collins is, and it kind of feels like out of nowhere, but great for Collins, right? We love that he's getting all this love. I want to see a little more consistency from Alfred Collins personally, but he does have a very high ceiling, in my opinion. And it wasn't really, I feel like I probably underrated his ceiling when I was evaluating him in the draft process because I saw him as a run defender, right? And, maybe you can develop a little bit of pass rush. But if he can be even like a 4 to 5 sack player for this defense, that is pretty notable for the 49ers. And having that sort of interior pressure, that's a big deal. And he's got some reps that really blow you away. I mean, some of his plays, you watch his strength and his ability to move people out of the way, it is like, wow. It catches me by surprise sometimes. And I know how big he is. I can only imagine what it's like to block that guy. And one more comment now. Let's wrap it up with a comment from Chalk Demon. Have you ever been to Chicago in the winter? I have. Soldier Field is not a picnic either. This was from when I was comparing Soldier Field to Lambeau Field. But yeah, very fair point. Chicago, not exactly the best winter destination in terms of weather, right? That Week 17 Niners-Bears game, luckily, is going to be at Levi's Stadium. So the 49ers will avoid bad weather at least once playing Chicago. We'll see if they have to play them in Soldier Field down the road. But of course, avoiding bad weather, it's always going to be a positive. That's going to be a storyline the rest of the year, right? Just the snow games, the rain, the winds, all that stuff, especially with a guy who doesn't have the strongest arm in Brock Purdy. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But we've avoided the weather in Week 17. So that is all for today, folks. Which wide receiver do you think that the 49ers should trade for? Let me know down below in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed. Leave a comment, leave a like, and of course, let me know if there's any topics that you would like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.